Most people only saw the viral clip, a billionaire pinned in a marble lobby, 5 guns aimed at his chest, and a black cleaning lady who moved so fast it didn't look real. But the clip starts too late. It doesn't show the moment she realized no one was coming. It doesn't show the choice she made when everyone else chose fear. It was a night Manhattan usually brags about, rain polishing the streets, neon bleeding into puddles. Empire Tower slicing straight into the clouds, 60 floors of glass, steel, and ego. Inside, the lobby glittered like a cathedral to money. The marble floor so white it reflected the chandelier's light like a mirror. Security gates humming, elevators whispering, heels clicking. And in the far corner, invisible in plain sight, Naomi Reed pushed a grey janitor's cart. Her world was small, a navy shirt with someone else's logo. A plastic badge that said NAOMI in cheap letters. Rubber soles that squeaked when the floor was too clean. She knew every vein in that marble, every scratch on the brass rails. She knew which executives pretended she didn't exist, and which ones said, "Thank you," without looking up from their phones. She also knew something no one in that lobby would have believed. There was a time her boots weren't cheap rubber. They were combat grade, and the hands that now wrung out dirty mops had once handled weapons that cost more than her car. At 8:41 p.m., as Naomi pushed her cart toward the restrooms, the revolving doors sighed open. A blast of cold, wet air rushed in. 5 figures stepped through. They moved wrong, not like tired business travelers or drunk tourists. Tight shoulders, eyes that swept, not glanced. Every step is measured. Naomi's pulse ticked up. That old, buried part of her, the one the military had trained and life had tried to bury, stirred. The tallest man led the pack, shaved head, scar slicing one eyebrow, suit tailor sharp, but his eyes were all wolf. Naomi watched him from the edge of a reflection in the polished floor. The general public would see 5 rich guys in good suits. A soldier saw 5 problems. Across the lobby, Ethan Caldwell checked his phone near the elevators. Founder of Neredyne Technologies, the encryption king, worth more than the building he was standing in. Up close, he didn't look like a villain or a hero, just tired, overworked. He'd always nodded at Naomi in the halls, sometimes even held the elevator for her. He didn't see the danger yet. The tall man did. He changed course. "Mr. Caldwell," he called, voice low but carrying. Ethan glanced up, polite reflex kicking in, then froze as a black pistol flowed out of the man's jacket like a shadow. Naomi's breath caught. Silencer. Small. Efficient, the kind built for places exactly like this. The lobby shrank around that barrel. Security tensed, but too late. Executives turned, but too slow. The tall man stepped closer. "You die tonight," he said. In that instant, Naomi's life split down the middle. One path, keep walking, pretend she never saw, go home to her kids, stay invisible. The other, step into a fight she absolutely could not win on paper. Her fingers tightened on the cold metal of the cart. If you * were standing there, underpaid, unseen, just trying to finish your shift, what would you do while a gun aimed at someone else's chest? Freeze, run, or move toward the danger? Tell me in the comments what your instinct says, because Naomi was about to choose, and nothing in her life would ever be the same after that. The lobby felt like someone hit mute on the world. No rain. No elevator ding. Just the sound of one man breathing behind a gun. Naomi swallowed. The tall man's eyes scraped over the lobby, measuring responses, calculating threats. He saw bodyguards flattening themselves behind pillars. He saw a receptionist duck under the desk. Then he saw her, the cleaning lady with the grey cart, the only person still standing fully upright. His lip curled. "You," he said, flicking the gun's barrel in her direction. "Turn around, walk." Away. Naomi didn't move. Inside her skull, 2 voices crashed. "Civilian Naomi, you have kids, you have rent, you do not have health insurance for bullets." Sergeant Reed, 5 hostiles. Primary target unarmed. Terrain, open, slippery, tools, cart, mop, sign, bucket. Nothing is nothing in the right hands. "Walk," the man repeated. "Last chance." Her eyes darted to Ethan. He wasn't begging, he wasn't bargaining. He was just waiting for someone to care enough to risk themselves. Her hand slid to the edge of the cart. The choice snapped into place. Naomi shoved. The cart flew forward with every ounce of strength she'd used on years of lifting buckets and trash bags. Bottles rattled, a mop clattered, the metal bucket jumped. The tall man cursed, stepping back, gun dipping for a fraction of a second. It was enough. Naomi sprinted behind the cart, lowering her body like a linebacker. The impact was ugly. Cart into knees. The tall man toppled. Gun arms slammed against marble. A silenced shot spat sideways, punching a hole in the concierge desk instead of Ethan's ribs. The lobby exploded into motion. A second man went for his weapon. Naomi's hand shot out, snatching the bright yellow wet floor sign off the tiles. She swung. Plastic cracked against my wrist. The gun flew. She pivoted, jammed the top of the sign into his throat like a spear. His eyes bulged, air cut, body folding. 3 to go. Someone screamed. Someone else filmed. Security finally scrambled, but their training was for drunks and petty thieves, not this. The third attacker lunged low, a knife flashing silver. He closed the distance between them in a heartbeat. Naomi stepped inward instead of back. Blade skimmed past her ribs, close enough to feel the kiss of air. She trapped his wrist with both hands, twisted hard, the way an instructor had shown her a lifetime ago. Bone popped, knife clattered. She kicked his knee sideways. Another body hit marble. The fourth man fired at her from across the lobby. Naomi dove behind the fountain. Water splashed her face, cold and shocking. Shots thudded into the statue above, spraying stone chips. Her lungs screamed. Her mind didn't. Count breaths. 2 seconds peak. 3 seconds to move. She listened. Footsteps on marble. Shallow breathing to her right. The squeak of expensive shoes. She grabbed the mop handle lying nearby, fingers remembering its weight like an old friend. When she rolled out from behind the fountain, she didn't look like a janitor anymore. She looked like what she had been, a soldier who was tired of pretending. She swung low, cracking the fourth man's ankle from behind. He dropped, cursing. Her second swing smashed his gun hand. The fifth and final attacker, still near the doors, grabbed a terrified guest, yanking her in front of him like a human shield. "Enough," he yelled. "Drop it or she dies." Naomi's chest heaved. She could hear sirens in the distance, now too far to help, close enough to complicate everything. Her gaze flicked around, ceiling cameras, reflective glass, fountains, chrome rim, angles. She saw his eyes in the reflection behind her. He wasn't watching her hands, he was watching her face. So she let her shoulders sag, letting the mop handle slip just enough to look like surrender. He eased a fraction. Naomi whipped the mop handle up, not at him, at the sprinkler head above. Metal shattered. A torrent of icy water crashed down. Everyone flinched. Hostage twisted free. Security surged. The fifth man cursed, slipping on the now legit wet floor. Naomi pounced, driving her shoulder into his chest. They both went down. 2 seconds of scrabbling hands, slippery marble, knees and elbows, and then it was over. He was on his face. Her knee was in his spine. The mop handle was across his throat. Somebody finally hit the alarm. Red lights flashed. Naomi stood, dripping, panting, surrounded by groaning men who had entered like sharks and were leaving like broken furniture. If watching an ordinary worker suddenly transform into a one-woman SWAT team grips you, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what happens after the fight. Because this is where most action movies roll credits, but Naomi's real struggle wasn't even on camera yet. As paramedics rushed in and officers swarmed the lobby, everyone turned their phones toward the billionaire and the bodies. Naomi stepped back to the edge of the scene, instinctively retreating to the shadows. Then several things happened at once. Ethan staggered toward her, eyes wide. A young woman whispered, "Did you see what she just did?" And somewhere in the chaos, a security tech hit export on the raw footage that would soon belong to millions. Naomi just stood there, shivering in her soaked uniform, wondering one thing. She'd survived men with guns, but could she survive what came next, when the whole world started watching someone who'd spent her life trying not to be seen? The internet devours heroes quickly. By sunrise, Naomi's inbox, voicemail, and front door were all under attack. The video hit social feeds like a grenade. Cleaning lady destroys armed hit squad. Real-life John Wick, but she's a mom. the maid who fights back. Freeze frames of her mid-swing became memes. Slow motion edits looped her every move with dramatic captions. Talk shows played the clip on repeat, commentators arguing whether it was reckless or brave. Naomi sat on the sagging couch of her tiny Bronx apartment, staring at herself on TV like she was watching a stranger. The living room smelled faintly of last night's pasta and cheap coffee. Kids' backpacks were piled by the door. A cracked photo of her in uniform hung crookedly on the wall. In the bedroom, Ava and Noah were still asleep. On screen, a pundit leaned forward. "Look at her form," he said. "That's not random flailing, that's military grade." The host nodded. "So who is she really?" Naomi's phone buzzed, vibrating across the table. Unknown number. She ignored it. It buzzed again and again. When she finally picked up, a woman's voice came through, calm, steady, a little too precise. "Naomi Reed, who's asking?" "Special Agent Camille Torres, Joint Federal Task Force. I'd like to talk about what happened last night and about why 5 professional killers walked into your workplace like they owned it." Naomi stiffened. "I already gave my statement twice." "I've read it," Camille said. "I believe you. The question is, do you realize how many people * don't want others to?" Before Naomi could answer, tiny footsteps pattered. Ava rubbed her eyes in the doorway. "Mom, why are you on TV?" Noah peered around her, saw the paused frame of his mother driving a cart into a man with a gun. "Whoa," he whispered. "You look like a superhero." Naomi muted the TV. "It was just work," she lied gently. "Go get dressed." As they disappeared, her phone buzzed again, this time with notifications. Hundreds of them, DMs, friend requests. Comments under grainy photo the neighbor had posted of her door. Some were kind, some were creepy, some were full of venom that tasted familiar. "You're lying. No way a janitor fights like that." Goved plant. "Fake attack. Bet she snapped. PTSD psycho." Naomi's stomach flipped. She'd fought men with guns and felt steady. Now her hands shook over a screen. "Agent Torres," she said slowly. "What exactly do you mean, people don't want others to believe me?" Camille's answer was immediate. "Because what you stopped last night was step 3 in a very expensive plan, and someone just watched a woman making $15 an hour wreck their investment on every news channel." Later that day, they met at a coffee shop that smelled like burned beans and old wood. Naomi sat with her back to the wall out of habit. Camille slid a thin file across the table. "Victor Havel," she said. "The tall one, mercenary, hired hammer for high-end clients." Inside, Naomi saw photos, Victor in different countries, different clothes, same dead eyes. Standing with politicians, kingpins, faceless businessmen. "This wasn't a robbery gone wrong," Camille continued. "It was an assassination attempt on Ethan Caldwell, who just happens to be scheduled to testify before a congressional committee in a few weeks about a data leak. Your lobby became a battlefield in a war most people don't realize is being fought." Naomi stared at the file, then at her own reflection in the window. Janitor, soldier, mother, all 3 labels pressed against her skin at once. "What do they do now?" she asked quietly. "The people who hired him and lost." Camille folded her hands. "Bullets failed, cameras didn't," she said, "so the next weapon is obvious." "Which is?" Naomi pressed. "Stories," Camille said. "They're going to try to turn you from hero into a problem." If you were in Naomi's shoes, watching the world praise you with one hand and sharpen knives with the other, would you step back into the shadows and hope it blew over, or stand your ground knowing it would paint a target on your back? Tell me in the comments, because Naomi was about to find out how deadly a lie can be when powerful people are desperate. By the end of the week, 3 Naomis existed online. Version 1, Saint Naomi. Clips of her smiling shyly on morning shows, hosts calling her our brave angel in blue. Inspirational music, GoFundMe links, fan art of her holding a glowing mop like a sword. Version 2, Psycho Naomi. Conspiracy threads claiming she'd snapped. Armchair experts dissecting freeze frames of her expression mid-fight, zooming in on clenched jaws and wide eyes. Version 3, Agent Naomi. Accounts insisting the whole thing was staged to boost Ethan's image before his testimony. Crisis actor, one thread labeled her. Another posted an old squad photo from her deployment, circled her, and wrote, "She's deep state, Naomi watched strangers argue about whether she existed. They looked up records of her service, misquoted old neighbors, pulled a line from a therapist's notes, and twisted it into unhinged. Her boss at Empire Tower called to say they were reviewing her position pending further developments. Translation. The building liked clean floors, not messy headlines. The only call that felt real came from Ethan. He sounded exhausted. "They're going after you because they can't go after me without looking obvious," he said. "I'm so sorry. You didn't pull the trigger," Naomi replied. "You just stood there with one pointed at your chest." He was quiet for a moment. "I want to help," he said. "However I can." Help came in a different form first. Camille met Naomi in a drab federal conference room, walls lined with whiteboards and screens. On one wall, a diagram spider webbed out from a single word in red, Marble Holdings. "Shell company," Camille explained. "Looks like a property management firm, really a money funnel. They handle cleaning contracts, security services, consulting for half the biggest buildings in this city." Naomi frowned. "Cleaning like janitors, cleaning like anything they don't want traced," Camille said. "Drug money, bribes, shadow ops funding. They hide behind people like you, Naomi, people nobody notices." Lines connected Marble Holdings to numbered accounts, then to names Naomi recognized from the news: senators, CEOs, philanthropists. "And these are the people who hired Victor?" she asked. "Somewhere in that mess, yes," Camille replied. "We get Ethan on that stand with evidence intact. Marble shakes. You on that stand make it harder to paint this as a misunderstanding." Naomi exhaled. "And if I don't testify, then they write the ending without you," Camille said. "And the next janitor, the next guard, the next driver who sees something, they remember what happened to the crazy maid who stuck her nose where it didn't belong." The words strung because they were exactly what Naomi had heard whispered in her own building. In the middle of that heavy air, Camille slid a small folder across the table. "These are vet advocacy orgs, trauma counselors, legal teams. If you say yes, we don't let you walk into that courtroom alone. If this mix of real-world power games and one woman trying to stand her ground hooks you, subscribe now so you don't miss how Naomi's decision in this room changes everything that follows." Naomi flipped through the papers, then looked up. "When I came home," she said slowly, "no one asked me how it felt to go from life and death missions to scrubbing someone else's lipstick off mirrors. They just wanted me to shut up and be grateful I wasn't in a war zone anymore." Her eyes hardened. "Turns out the war followed me," she said. "Put me on the stand." Across town, in a boardroom 40 floors up, a man whose name didn't appear on any public document watched Naomi's latest interview. "She will testify," he said calmly, swirling ice in a crystal glass. "Good, let her speak. Then we'll decide which version of her the world remembers." What happens when the most dangerous battlefield in the world isn't a desert or a jungle, but a courtroom, a comment section, and a 20-second video millions of strangers think they understand? Preparation for court felt more like prepping for deployment than anything else Naomi had done since the military. Instead of rifles and rations, it was binders and briefings. Instead of camouflage, tailored outfits that said credible without saying expensive. Camille walked her through likely questions. "They're going to dig into your past," the agent warned. "Every mission, every reprimand, every doctor's note." Naomi's jaw tightened. "They can have it. I did what I had to do over there. I did what I had to do here." They met with a trauma specialist who taught Naomi breathing techniques for the stand. "Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. Control what you can," he said. "Not the questions, just your own nervous system." At night, when her kids were asleep in the safe house, Naomi lay awake on a thin mattress, reliving 2 battlefields at once. The streets of a foreign city, dust in her throat, shots echoing. The gleam of Empire's marble, water, and blood mixing at her feet. Sometimes Marcus's voice, the husband she'd buried years ago after one mission too many, floated up from the dark. "You don't owe this country your whole life," he'd said once, half joking over MREs. "Just the best parts." She'd given those. Now, apparently, it wanted her privacy too. The day she walked into court, cameras flashed like artillery. Inside, the wood was polished, the air too cold. Victor sat at the defense table, cleaned up in a suit, cuffed but composed. He looked smaller without a gun, more dangerous without one. As Naomi took the stand, their eyes met. He smiled, not kindly, knowingly. The prosecutor began by humanizing her, where she grew up, why she'd enlisted, how she ended up at Empire Tower. He pulled up the original, unedited security clip. The jury watched the 5 men enter. I watched the gun appear. Watching Naomi move like gravity didn't apply to her. Murmurs rippled through the room. Then Victor's attorney rose. He introduced himself like a friend, complimenting her bravery, thanked her for her service. Then he started cutting. "Miss Reed," he said, voice smooth, "would you say war changed you?" "Yes," she replied. "Would you say it left some scars?" "Yes." He clicked a button. On the screen, a redacted VA document. Words like hypervigilant, nightmares, episodes. "Did you ever feel," he asked, drawing it out, "like you were back there even when you were home?" Naomi's throat was dry. "Sometimes. That's what trauma does." And on the night in question, surrounded by stress, alarms, wealthy clients, a known public figure, do you think it's possible that your combat instincts made you perceive more threat than there actually was? He pressed another button. A different video played. The lobby. But this time, the moment the gun appeared was cropped, blurred, timed oddly. What the jury saw looked like Naomi suddenly ramming a cart into a man in a suit for no reason. Gunshot sound added just a fraction of a second after her hit. "There are multiple camera angles," the attorney said, "some quite different from the one you've been shown all over the news." He let that hang. "If you were sitting in that wooden chair, watching a roomful of strangers study you like a specimen, while a man with a perfect tie suggested you'd imagine danger, what would you feel boiling up first? Rage, fear, or doubt? Tell me in the comments, because Naomi could feel all three fighting for the same breath as she gripped the edge of the witness stand. The air in the courtroom thickened. Naomi felt the jury's eyes on her. Some are sympathetic, some are skeptical now. Victor's lawyer paced slowly. "You wore a body cam in the military, didn't you, Miss Reed?" "Yes," she said, "yet you did not hand over any personal recordings from that night." "I wasn't asked," she replied. "Is it possible you knew they might not support your version of events?" he pressed. "No," she said, voice roughening. "It's possible I didn't trust anyone enough yet to give them everything that proves I'm not crazy." "Objection, argumentative," the prosecutor cut in. "Sustained," the judge said. "Counselor, watch your tone." The lawyer feigned humility. "Of course, Your Honor." He turned back to Naomi. "So there is other footage?" he asked. Naomi hesitated. The safe answer was no comment. The smart legal answer was, "I'll defer to counsel." The soldier's answer was different. "Yes," she said, "I recorded my shift on a cheap body cam I bought online months ago after a drunk executive cornered one of my co-workers and nobody believed her." A ripple of surprise moving through the room. "Your Honor," the prosecutor said quickly, "the government requests an immediate recess to review this new evidence." "We were not aware," Naomi cut in, adrenaline overriding protocol. "I didn't show you because every time someone like me records someone like them, we get fired," she said, voice rising. "Or worse. But if they're going to stand there and warp reality while the man who pointed a gun at my boss pretends he's the victim..." "Miss Reed," the judge warned. She took a breath, exhale 6. "Then you should see what really happened," she finished. The recess felt longer than some deployments. In a side room, Tex hunched over Naomi's scuffed body cam, fingers flying. Camille stood beside her, arms crossed. "Are you sure about this? Once this is out, you can't take it back." "Maybe that's the point," Naomi said. "I'm tired of other people editing my life." When court reconvened, everyone seemed to lean forward at once. The body cam footage played. It wasn't pretty. The angle was low, slightly tilted, but it was honest. They saw Victor's hand pull the gun, heard his exact words, "You die tonight," saw Ethan's flinch. Heard a visiting executive whisper, "Jesus, they're serious." Caught a glimpse of a junior security guard frozen, unable to move. And they saw Naomi move after the barrel leveled at Ethan's chest, not before. They saw the precise, targeted way she swung, always neutralizing, never going for lethal blows. The impact was seismic. Victor's calm cracked for the first time, a slight clench of his jaw, a flicker in his eye. His lawyer tried to recover. Body cams can be doctored, Your Honor, the judge cut him off. So I can edit security clips, Counselor. This jury will decide which is more persuasive. If this battle between truth and spin, fought with grainy footage instead of bullets, grips you, hit that subscribe button so you're here when we hit the part after the verdict. Because that's where a lot of stories stop, and this one keeps going. 2 days later, the verdict came down. Guilty, attempted assassination, conspiracy, illegal weapons, a list long enough to bury a career. Naomi stood outside the courthouse, the sun too bright after so much fluorescent light. Reporters swarmed. How does it feel to be vindicated? Do you forgive your attackers? What's next for you? She answered what she could without giving them new bones to pick. It feels like one battle in a much bigger war, she said. And no, I don't forgive people who use lives like poker chips. That night, exhausted, she brought her kids back to their old apartment for the first time in weeks. The safe house cleared, the immediate threat neutralized. She pushed open the door. Her stomach dropped, drawers yanked out. Couch guts on the floor, kids' drawings ripped and trampled. On the wall in spray paint, 3 words, stay in place. Naomi's heart slammed into her throat. Ava, Noah, she shouted. A neighbor stepped into the hall quickly. They're with me, she said. Heard someone break in an hour ago, called the cops. They ran to my place. Naomi sagged with relief as her kids barreled into her arms, crying. Behind them, an officer snapped photos of the vandalism. This isn't random, Camille said, arriving minutes later, eyes scanning the room. This is someone telling you the courtroom wasn't the last arena. How do you keep standing up when every time you win one round, someone kicks your life in a new place? It hurts more. Your home, your kids' sense of safety, your right to just exist without looking over your shoulder. The second safe house was less temporary motel and more underground bunker. Thick doors, bullet-resistant glass, walls that hummed faintly with hidden wiring. Naomi tucked her kids into unfamiliar beds again. Ava clung to her. Is it because you helped that man? She whispered. Is that why they hate us? Naomi swallowed hard. They don't hate you, asterisk, she said. They hate anyone who proves they're not untouchable. Then don't help them, Noah mumbled, half asleep. Help us, the guilt cut deeper than any headline. In the war room, Camille clicked through a cascade of intercepted communications. Victor's conviction shook the tree, she said. See these, dead drops going silent, shell accounts being drained. Someone is cleaning the house. On one screen, a name pulsed at the center of a digital web, the broker. No face, Naomi asked. No confirmed one, Camille replied. He's the middleman. The guy Marble Holdings uses to contract people like Victor, speaks 5 languages, lives nowhere and everywhere. Why isn't he in a cell next to Victor? Naomi demanded. Because he doesn't pull triggers himself, Camille said. He just sends other people to do it. Prosecuting him requires more than one intercepted call. We need something that shows a pattern, something public. The idea that had been gnawing at Naomi's subconscious surfaced. What if we make him overconfident? She said slowly. Do what he expects least from someone like me? Camille raised an eyebrow. Which is? Stop hiding, Naomi said. Go bigger. Ethan joined them via video, dark circles under his eyes, but a stubborn spark still there. Marble Holdings is weakest in one place, he said. Public reputation. They exist in the shadows, but their money depends on looking clean enough for banks and politicians to shake their hands. What are you suggesting? Camille asked. Live stream, Ethan said. From Empire Tower, lobby rebuilt, me and Naomi together, laying out everything we know about Marble, their accounts, their contracts, names on record. We force them into the light in real time. Naomi folded her arms. You want to stand again, asterisk, in the exact place they tried to kill you, Camille said, incredulous, and dare them to react. Yeah, Naomi replied. Because running hasn't exactly made them stop, has it? In the quiet that followed, a plan took shape. Layers of security, multiple camera feeds with off-site backups, agents in plain clothes at every entrance. If these mix of action and strategy scenes, where a janitor thinks like a field commander, are your thing, drop a comment about whether you would volunteer to stand under the same chandelier twice. because that's exactly what Naomi was signing up for. Camille studied her. You understand, the agent said. If we bait the broker like this, he might send someone worse than Victor. Naomi thought of her sprayed, painted wall. Good, she said. I'm tired of him sitting in some penthouse, letting other people do his bleeding for him. She walked back to her kids' room, watched them sleep under thin government-issue blankets. We go back, she whispered to the dark, so they don't have to keep hiding. Across the city, in a high-rise office with a view of the river, a man with silvering hair and an unremarkable suit watched a news teaser. Hero Maid and Billionaire to reveal shadow network at Empire Tower, the anchor said. The man smiled faintly, fingers steepled. So the pawn wants to be a queen, he murmured. Interesting. He picked up a secure phone. Prepare a response, he said. Subtle at first, then less subtle. What does a predator do when the prey it thought it controlled walks willingly into an open field, cameras rolling, and dares it to attack? The night of the live stream, Empire Tower felt like a movie set haunted by its own prequel. The marble was repolished, the bullet marks gone, but Naomi could still see where they'd been. The fountain burbled, newly installed nozzles glinting. Security gates had thicker glass now. Discreet cameras winked from more corners. Naomi stood in front of the big glass doors, staring at her reflection. Same face, new scar on her cheek, different posture, less hunched, more grounded. Remember, Camille's voice murmured in her ear, we have agents at every entrance. Rooftop snipers, drones overhead. If anything feels off, we shut it down. Got it, Naomi said. But they don't get to shut me down this time. Ethan joined her, adjusting his tie nervously. I preferred the hoodie, Naomi commented. He huffed a laugh. My comms team insisted on trustworthy billionaire chic. Is that a thing? She asked. Apparently, he said. They stepped to the small podium set up in the center of the lobby. Lights brightened, red recording dots glowed on multiple cameras. A producer's hand counted down with fingers. 3, 2, 1. Good evening, Ethan began, voice echoing slightly. A year ago, this lobby was the site of an attempted murder mine. One woman's courage stopped it. Tonight, we're here together to talk about why it happened and who paid for it. Naomi stood beside him, resisting the urge to search every shadow. She kept her gaze on the nearest camera instead, as if looking through it to the millions beyond. In the last year, she said, we've learned that the men who walked in here that night were just paid hands. The money came from somewhere else. Marble Holdings, a company that pretends to clean buildings while it actually cleans dirty money. On a screen beside them, Camille's team projected a simple chart, nothing classified, just public records arranged in a way no one had bothered to show. Shell companies, consulting fees, massive transfers to offshore banks right before elections, right before favorable votes. If you're wondering why this matters to you watching at home, Naomi said, it's because people like me see the people who walk into these places late at night. We empty their trash, we overhear their phone calls, we are the background to their lives, until suddenly we're not. Somewhere in the middle of her sentence, the lobby lights dimmed for a fraction of a second, barely noticeable. Unless you were waiting for it. Power surge, Ethan whispered. Camille, Naomi murmured. Backup systems show normal so far, came the reply. Stay with the script. But the hairs on Naomi's arms rose. Her eyes shifted to the revolving doors. At first, there was nothing, then movement. A man in a maintenance uniform pushed a cart through the doors. He wore the same navy blue shirt Naomi used to wear. Same logo, same color, too clean. He kept his head down as if embarrassed to be interrupting. No one stopped him. Naomi's breath hitched. I want you all to notice something, she said into the camera, stalling. When a billionaire walks through these doors, the whole building shifts around him. When a cleaner walks through, nobody looks twice. The maintenance man's cart rolled closer. On Naomi's inner audio channel, a text-panicked voice cut in. Camille, we've got an unauthorized RFID badge in the lobby. He just walked right past the scanner. Naomi, step back, Camille snapped. Naomi didn't step back. She stepped off the podium. She'd worn that uniform. She knew the weight of that cart. The rhythm of the wheels was wrong, too heavy on one side. Fake. Sir, she called from halfway between the podium and the cart. "You're late. Shift starts at 10. The man's shoulders twitched. "So many people think they know how this story ends," Naomi said to the lens, heart-pounding, playing for time. "Gunmen, heroics, courtrooms. But they forget something important." The man lifted his head. His eyes were cold. He reached under the draped plastic of the cart. Naomi lunged. Her hand grabbed the side of the cart and yanked it over with all her weight. The world slowed. A tangle of metal, wires, and duct-taped bricks of something very wrong tumbled onto the marble. Not guns, not knives. Explosives. Plastic explosive molded around nails, set into a crude but lethal shape. The detonator, a small black device with a blinking light, skittered across the floor toward the fountain. People screamed. Agents drew guns. Ethan froze. Naomi dove for the detonator like her life depended on it, because it did. If you were watching this stream, seeing a woman in a blazer tackle a bomb in the same lobby where she'd once swung a mop, would you even believe it was real? Or would you think no true story could possibly be this insane? Hit that subscribe button if you're still breathing after that reveal, because whether that detonator stops flashing or doesn't decides who walks out of this lobby alive. Naomi's fingers closed around the detonator. Cold plastic, warm fear. She slammed her palm over the blinking light and rolled, curling her body around it to shield everyone else. "Clear the lobby," Camille yelled through every speaker, both in Naomi's ear and over the PA. "Evacuate now." Bomb squad in. Security hustled people toward the side exits. Producers scrambled to cut the feed, only to find their controls locked by Camille's team. "We're already in it," the agent told them. The world might as well know why. The fake maintenance man bolted toward the rear hallway, only to run straight into two agents in plain clothes. He swung a wrench. They answered with a taser. He went down in a twitching heap. Naomi lay very still. The detonator didn't explode. "Talk to me," she whispered. "Motion sensor, pressure backup, but it's not armed properly," a bomb tech said, crouching. Either they rushed it, or they wanted to scare more than kill. "Or they wanted to see how fast we react," Naomi muttered, letting him gently pry the device from her grip. In a control room miles away, the broker watched it all on multiple screens. He studied Naomi's movements, how fast she clocked the fake uniform, how she pulled the cart, how she dove without hesitation. "Impressive," he conceded. One of his assistants hovered nervously. "Sir, do we pivot? She's useful," the broker said. "A focal point, better to bend than break sometimes." He tapped a finger against his glass. "Offer her a choice when this cools down. People who know what they are predictable. People still deciding what they are, those are dangerous." Back at Empire Tower, once the bomb squad declared the device defused, someone finally cut the live stream. But the damage, or the revelation, was done. Naomi and Ethan had promised to shine light on Marble Holdings. Marble Holdings had answered, "We see you, we're not done." In the days that followed, arrests rippled outward, drivers, false contractors, a low-level accountant who flipped faster than expected. They pieced together more of the broker's pattern. He stayed clean by making his clients dirty, always inserting one more layer between himself and the act. Camille paced in front of the timeline. "Victor has muscle," she said. The bomb guy was a disposable distraction, both trace back through Marble subsidiaries to offshore trusts we can almost crack. "Almost isn't enough," Naomi snapped. "Every day he's out there, he sends some message, pays some guy to spray 3 words on someone's wall." Ethan leaned forward. "What if we hit him where he lives?" he asked. "Not physically, digitally, publicly. The way he tried with you. They cooked up something that wasn't quite legal and not quite illegal. A digital dossier, crowdsourced and fact-checked, about how shadow brokers operate. No names at first, just methods, how they hire, how they pay, how they hide behind cleaning contracts and security firms and consulting gigs." Naomi narrated the explainer video herself. Her voice was calm. "When someone like me clocks in," she said, "most people assume we're invisible, but we see everything, hear everything, and when we start comparing notes, patterns emerge." The video hit a nerve. Custodians, night guards, rideshare drivers began submitting anonymous tips to a secure portal Ethan's engineers built. license plates, photos of suspicious meetings, screenshots of emails. The web tightened. If the idea of an army of invisible workers quietly turning into a global intelligence network gives you chills, tell me in the comments how many secrets you think the people who clean, drive, and guard the powerful are sitting on right now. One tip stood out. A cleaner in a luxury condo recognized a face from one of Naomi's briefings and sent in a photo of a man in a robe, reflecting in a penthouse window at 3 a.m., talking on a secure phone. The angle caught enough of the skyline to triangulate the building. Camille's team cross-checked entry logs, found patterns of aliases, linked them to offshore wallets. For the first time, they had not just a method, they had a probable address. Tonight, Camille said, looking at Naomi, we go to him, no more waiting for him to send other people to our lobbies. Naomi's pulse steadied instead of spiking. Then let's knock on his door, she said. What happens when the people the system thought were pawns start playing like they know where the king sleeps? The building where the broker slept didn't look sinister. It looked tasteful, muted glass, subtle lighting. A lobby that smelled faintly of expensive flowers and rich people's secrets. Naomi stood across the street in a borrowed coat, hood up, watching agents slip in through service entrances she knew by feel. She could have been on her way to work. Same streets, same city, different missions. In the surveillance van, Camille pointed to a thermal image. Top floor east corner, she said. He's there alone. Alone, Naomi repeated skeptically. For now, Camille said. They moved, elevator, hallway, soft carpet swallowing sound. Outside the penthouse door, Camille raised a hand. On her count, agents flooded in. No gunfire, no shouts, just the soft, controlled chaos of professionals doing their job. Naomi followed slower. The penthouse was all glass and chrome, the city spread below like a circuit board. At a sleek dining table sat a man in a grey sweater, hands calmly folded, silver-streaked hair, eyes that looked like they'd seen too much and cared too little. Good evening, he said, as if they were guests. You must be Naomi Reed. Hearing her name in his mouth sent a chill down her spine. You're under arrest, Camille said, reading him his rights. He listened politely. Agent Tors, he said when she finished. You've worked very hard. I respect that. His gaze shifted to Naomi. You are less so, he added. You've worked very loudly. Naomi stepped forward. You sent men into my lobby. You sent messages to my home. You sent a bomb. He tilted his head. I sent opportunities, he said, for you to realize what you are. You don't belong scrubbing floors, Miss Reed. You belong making hard decisions just like I do. I don't make decisions that kill people for money, she snapped. Don't you? He asked softly. You killed my contracts, my alliances, jobs for men like Victor, money for politicians. You disrupted entire ecosystems because you couldn't walk away from one billionaire with a target on his chest. He smiled faintly. That's power, he said. You can pretend it's moral, but it's still powerful. Agents cuffed him. As they led him past, he leaned slightly toward her. Be careful, he murmured. When the world gets used to you as their hero, they get just as hungry to see you fall. Today they cheer you for being brave. Tomorrow they may punish you for being inconvenient. He disappeared into the elevator. Months later, the broker's trial would become its own circus. Lawyers, leaks, deals. For Naomi, life settled into something stranger, not normal exactly, but steadier. She took a job building the Invisible Hands Fund full-time. She traveled to speak with custodians, guards, drivers, nannies, people who'd seen too much and said too little because they had everything to lose. She lobbied for whistleblower protections for low-wage workers, helped cleaners win the right to wear body cams in certain high-risk buildings, got a clause inserted into security contracts that made ignoring their reports a liability. 1 year after the first lobby incident, Empire Tower unveiled a quiet memorial. Not a statue, just a small plaque set into the marble near the fountain. In honor of Naomi Reed and all the invisible hands who choose to act when it would be safer to look away. Naomi didn't want a ceremony. She went alone at dawn before work one day, fingers grazing the engraved letters. A cleaner vacuumed nearby, earbuds in, barely glancing at her. Perfect, she thought. Back home that night, she tucked her kids into bed. Are we safe now? Noah asked. We are safer, she said. Safe is a big word. Are you done fighting? Ava asked. Naomi thought of the broker's warning, of new tips still flowing into the portal, of workers in other cities with stories that sounded like hers. Done with that chapter, she said. Not done with the book. She stood by the window after they slept, city lights flickering like a constellation of unsolved problems. Her phone buzzed, this time with a video notification from a janitor in another state who just filmed a suspicious handoff in a corporate stairwell. Hey, Miss Reed, the caption read. Thought you'd want to see this. Naomi smiled, tired but fierce. If stories like Naomi's hit you in the heart and make you look twice at the people quietly keeping your world running, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next invisible hero who refuses to stay in the background. Because somewhere, right now, a bus driver is hearing something he shouldn't. A hotel maid is seeing something she can't forget. A night guard is watching a door that should never have opened. The only question is, when their moment comes, will they walk away like the world expects, or will they, like Naomi, decide that staying invisible isn't worth the cost anymore?